start the recording now. Okay. All right. So here we are. Let me go here and share my screen real quick. Everyone, welcome. I'll be, letting people in as this thing progresses and as we continue with the discussion. But, I always start on time and it is recorded. So I wanted to make sure I stayed true to that in JJ fashion. So for those that are here, welcome. Thank you guys for coming out, making time, this Sunday afternoon to hear a little bit about what I think is a phenomenal piece of equipment or a phenomenal add-on for our industry, and where things are headed. And just want to take a quick minute to set up my guest really good. So that way, a lot of the backstory is told prior to him chiming in and starting to do this thing. First of all, if anyone ever needs to contact me, here's my direct information, my website, my email address. Please feel free to reach out, anytime and ask questions if there's a need for anything that I actually do. But this is not about me today. We got some phenomenal stuff to talk about. So with that said, here we go. So we are not gathered here today to talk about this version of the plant. Let me put that out there. This is the version of the plant that grows 4 to 6 feet tall. They actually use the leaves and the buds. Some people are smoking them. Some people are extracting them for the oils for CBD products and things of that nature. Okay, and that's phenomenal. That is called hemp. But there is also another version of hemp that is not for the biomass. It's not for cannabinoids, and it does not grow 4 to 6 feet tall. There's a version of this plant that grows 15 to 20 feet tall, and that's a fully grown man standing in a field of this stuff. And this stuff grows. There are over 25,000 industrial uses for it right now and climbing. It's no secret that if you grow an acre of hemp versus an acre of trees, if you cut down an acre of trees, it takes 15 to 20 years for an acre of trees to grow back. But if you cut down an acre of hemp every 90 to 120 days, you can go ahead and do the same thing, get the, 3 to 4 times the amount of yield, depending upon when you plant, where you're at in the world. And once it's planted, once it's grown, it needs to be harvested. And there's some unique technologies that come into play to be able to work with the stock of this plant, because we're not talking about the buds and leaves. You're primarily growing it for the stock. Okay. So here are some of the uses of that actual plant all the way to the root triggers use various things. But when you actually cut it down, and you look at it from a side profile, okay, this is the stalk cut in half. The outer portion of the stalk is what we call bast fiber, okay, and the inner portion of the stalk is what we call hurd. And here's a couple of pictures of what the bast fiber looks like separated from the hurd. And here's another picture of the bast completely separated from the hurd. But the thing that a lot of people don't talk about, they don't talk about the special equipment that's needed to process or to get it to this phase. And it's actually called decortication equipment. And decortication equipment, guys, it is not cheap. I'm just telling you straight up. But a lot of the unique challenges with decortication equipment is where the equipment is located versus where your crop is being grown. Now, here are some pictures of some of that decortication equipment, and this equipment costs, a few $1 million, in itself. And then you got to have a facility to house it, employees to run it, and things like that. So the cost can be very great. And like I said, these are a few pictures of just different, phases of using that actual decortication equipment. Well, guess what? Now we're going to talk about a piece of equipment that you don't necessarily need to house in a decortication facility. This is a piece of equipment that can be bought out to a field where it's being harvested real time. And it actually separates the fiber from the hurd in the field. They call it wet decortication, green decortication. And the thing that I like about it is you don't have to be within 150 miles of a decortication facility or 200 miles where you're, burning up trucking costs, getting this stuff back and forth to a facility to get it decorticated before it can be sold. There is a new process out now through this phenomenal piece of technology, and it's called the Fiber King. And the Fiber King belongs to my buddy Lawrence Serban and some friends of his. They came up with this concept. They've been beta testing it or doing R&D on it for a couple of years now, and it's ready to be actually used in this space. So this is going to cut down on a lot of transportation back and forth between decortication facilities. If you're having problems getting in contact with a decortication facility, you very well may not need them anymore if you possess this piece of equipment or a way to, know someone who has it that you can use it and bring it out. So I'm very excited about this piece of equipment, and I'm very excited, to see, my buddy Lawrence Serban come out here and, talk about it a little bit. So with that said, first thing I want to do, Lawrence, can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can hear you fine, JJ.
Awesome, awesome, man. Thank you so much for taking time out of a Sunday, to spend a little time with us to talk about the Fiber King, and what it means to the space. But I think before we dive into that, man, how and when did you get involved with this crazy plant that we call hemp?
Well, I got involved a long time ago, probably starting around 1990. I
Okay.
had,
Wow.
yeah, a long time ago,
Yeah.
36 years ago, that I got involved. And I read some information about hemp that I thought was kind of interesting. And, I read, oh, well, hemp can make paper, hemp can make textiles, hemp can make building materials. And I thought it was interesting, and I kind of realized that, the only reason we're not doing this is because when they outlawed marijuana, they
Mhm.
also outlawed industrial hemp. So I realized I felt, gee, there's a real opportunity here,
Mhm.
that we haven't been able to take advantage of for since 1937, 38.
Right.
So I figured there was something there. And in 1990, I made the decision that I was going to start a hemp company. And I began first, I volunteered my time in a few hemp organizations. I kind of learned the lay of the land, so to
Mhm.
say, what was
Mhm.
going on. And in 1994, I started my first hemp company importing and selling hemp textiles that I was able to bring in from China.
Awesome.
It's grown since then. I've expanded into twine, yarn, rope, webbing. And then around 2018, we legalized hemp in the United States, and I expanded into things like raw fiber, uh, hemp hurd, hemp bast fiber, and various items of that nature. And that's kind of how I got into it. And we've had my company that whole time.
Awesome, awesome. And I think one thing that's key and critical that you said, you started doing, importing, export, with China back in 1994. So you've been involved, with this plant in multiple countries for a really long time now. So there's a certain skill set or a lot of the behind the scene things that you've learned with this plant just by being involved with other countries. And that's going to come in, key and critical, when we transition here, in just a second. But man, thank you for your contribution. I know where I'm at in this space. I'm only 10 years in, and it hasn't been easy for me for the small, contribution that I've made. As long as you've been doing this, man, thank you. I really appreciate that. And you know, one of the things that, I mean, I'm just going to call a spade, and I'm just going to dive straight into it because it is what it is. People get really excited when they see this piece of technology because, you got the herd shooting out of the top, right? Which can go into a trailer as long as it's got some aeration for it to continue to, air out and dry a little bit. You don't have to worry about mold when it comes to the herd. But when it comes to the fiber that's dropping out of the bottom and laying on the field, I know that it can dry out for a few days there, that whole to start that redding process that we talked about. But, a lot of people look at this and the first thing that they'll talk about is, well, that fiber hasn't been degummed yet. How is it going to be degummed? How is that going to come into play? What are you going to do about that? What's the solution? Otherwise, that fiber is not going to be any good. What's your caveat to that based on what you know and what you've experienced with other countries? And how can we overcome that with this piece of technology?
All right. So Let me kind of explain the process a little bit
Sure.
more to make it clear to people who might not know much about it.
And just FYI, I have
Yeah.
the video on cue, the 1 minute video so if you ever want me, if you want me to play that, I can play that at any time.
All right, so I'll do a little explaining, and then before I answer the question, I'll ask
Sure.
you to play the video.
Okay.
So the two terms that we're talking about, one term is called retting,
Hmm.
and retting is synonymous with the term rotting.
Hmm.
And so what happens, you can see I have behind me, you can see a hemp field. Traditionally, what has to happen is the hemp field is chopped down, the whole hemp stalks fall, and you can actually even see them right there in the field
Yep.
lying there.
Hmm.
And what happens is they'll dry out, but uh, when they dry, it's almost like they have glue inside of them. And the
Hmm.
glue hardens, and it makes it very difficult to separate the bark fiber, which is referred to as bast, from the core fiber, which is referred to as hurd. So what they would have to do, traditionally, you have to let the plants ret in the field, which is, again, synonymous with rotting. So what's happening is bacteria in the air and the dew and the water begin to break down the stalks. And after a few days to a few weeks, the fibers begin to separate a little easier.
Hmm.
What normally happens is then the whole stalks are baled up, usually in a square or round bale, and then you have to take it to a factory where the whole stalks get smashed, and then they separate that bark fiber from the core fiber. So really the only purpose of retting, again, is to try to break down that glue that's in
Hmm.
it. Now, what's interesting, when I grew hemp for the first time, I began to realize that when the plants are green and before they're dry, that glue's not really hard in it. And you can just break it with your hand and peel that stalk right off.
Hmm.
So I got the idea that we could probably build a machine that could go through the field, chop the plant down, separate the fiber, and you would then could eliminate the entire retting process altogether, and you could eliminate the entire process of building a whole decortication factory. Now,
Hmm.
JJ mentioned, yeah, you saw that equipment. That is very expensive equipment. It runs anywhere from usually the lowest price I've seen is about $800,000, all the
Hmm.
way to, for a large decortication factory, in the tens of millions of dollars to do all
Absolutely.
of that.
Hmm.
So by eliminating it, we're keeping it a lot, we're basically eliminating the entire cost of buying the equipment, having the machinery, the land, the rent on a building, and an entire middleman. So with
Hmm.
our method, the farmer then can sell that bast fiber in the herd.
Hmm.
Now, why don't you show that video and you can actually see it as it
Sure.
goes through the field. The bast fiber drops to the ground in the herd, gets blown out the top. And you can
Yep.
show that now.
Okay. I am transitioning over as we speak. We'll go there. I'll minimize. We got the video, and here we go. Can you see that, Lawrence?
Yes, I can see it a little choppy, but I can definitely see it. Now, what's happening is that machine is being pulled by a tractor. It's going through the field. The bast fiber is
I'm
dropping
sorry,
down the
Lawrence. I
bottom.
couldn't hear you too good, Lawrence. I hear the sound from the video, but I couldn't hear your voice too good.
Okay. As I was saying, as the machine goes through the field,
Oh.
it's chopping down the hemp.
Hmm.
The bast fiber is dropping down below, and the herd is getting shooting through that little spigot where it can get caught by a cart or a truck that might go by.
Let me show the
Now,
rest of it.
yeah, you can show it again. I couldn't see it very well. It was a little choppy, but
Okay. Let's
So
try it
what you're
now.
trying to in.
Okay.
All right, this is the video moving.
Okay, there we go. Okay. All right. Lawrence,
All
can you
right.
hear me?
Yeah, I hear you.
Okay,
All right.
perfect.
So what happens though, once you collect that fiber, when it goes on the ground, it will dry. And then you bale that up and you have that fiber. And then but the fibers are kind of all glued together. They're not individual. They're kind of like that. And what's holding the fibers is lignin. So that's the question you asked me about delignifying the fiber or degumming the fiber. So
Mhm.
what you have to do in order to do that, you have to boil it in a solution of sodium hydroxide, and that will actually dissolve the lignin out, and the fibers will begin to separate. And once you do that, the fibers are very much like cotton fibers. They're individual, they're separated, and at that point, they're usually white and fluffy, and they can be used to make textiles or other products. That would be done later, not in the field, but at a factory. You can do that at. Now, the current hemp that's being processed, they have to do that anyway if they want to do any kind of textiles. Otherwise, the only other method would be to try to comb it with a comb or sketch it. And that's another way to separate it as well.
So you have your mechanical method, which is the old school where you got the nails on the, kind of like and beating it through there to kind of continue to
Mm-hmm.
comb it. And then you got the chemical method with what you just mentioned. And I guess the other question that I had is if a farmer, if someone is willing to take on that delignification process or that degumming process, can you guide them through that? Because I think there's going to be a lack of knowledge in the US of how to actually do that. Someone's looking at this machine, they want to buy it, but I mean, they're going to need a little help trying to figure out that whole degumming piece if they, decide to do it. So,
Yeah, it's not as complicated as it sounds. Number one, if you just search online, you can get the whole directions on how to do it.
okay.
But basically, you need two things. You need the chemical, which is sodium hydroxide. Sodium hydroxide is also known as lye,
Hmm.
Lye, or soda ash. It's all the
Hmm.
same thing. It's an alkaline solution.
Hmm.
Now, the other piece of equipment you need is a pressure cooker. No different than a pressure cooker that you might find in a kitchen, only a much larger one. So basically, what you put into the pressure cooker would be water, sodium hydroxide, and the hemp fiber. You use the pressure cooker to raise the temperature. The lignin then will kind of turn into a liquid, dissolve in the sodium hydroxide, and the fiber separates. You wash it away, and then you can actually collect the lignin if you want, and then you also have the clean fiber on the other
Gotcha.
hand. Those pressure cookers already exist in America. They're,
Hmm.
you can buy them new, you can buy them used, you can buy all different sizes. So it's not really a major problem in order to set something like that up if somebody wanted to do it. The other option would be farmer could harvest the hemp, take the fiber, ship it off to a country like China, who already has all the apparatus, all the equipment to separate the lignin from it, to remove it.
Right.
So they wouldn't necessarily have to do anything.
Now, with that sodium hydroxide, correct? Is that what you
Mm-hmm.
stated? In terms of like wastewater, disposal, I mean, how does that affect the environment? Because
All
people are
right.
gonna want to.
Sodium hydroxide is the chemical sodium and OH. So it's NaOH.
Hmm.
And so it's a fairly simple molecule. Now, all you have to do is you would add hydrochloric acid, which is HCl, to
Hmm.
it, and they react with one another and it turns into salt water.
Okay,
That's
got you.
it. Yeah.
Got
So
you.
you can neutralize it by adding hydrochloric acid.
And that's, and I am so glad you have figured this out
Hmm.
because how do I put it best? Since I know that I'm being recorded and multiple people are going to see this, right? But I can't tell you the amount of, I'm just going to call it a shitstorm, of people who, when I share this with them, so the first thing that they'll say is, well, what about the, degumming or the delignification? And then what are you going to do with the wastewater and all that stuff? And it's like, look. I'm going to be honest. I don't know, but there is a guy coming out here that knows, and he's the, inventor of the technology. So how about you ask that guy? Like, because he's the one, who will know. Now I know because, I've listened to the guy who owns the technology, right? But I got to have that opportunity first. So, I think this is, I think this is pretty amazing. I think it's going to save a lot of people, a lot of time and a lot of headache. And what I like to see, they say rising, the rising tide raises all the boats in the harbor.
Hmm.
I feel like this piece of technology right here will truly give some, not all, there are some decorticators out there that are doing an amazing job. Some decortication facilities. You got IND Hemp, my friends at South Bend Hemp, Biofield Natural Fibers, my buddy, David Kemp. There are some that are doing a great job, but there are some that won't even return customers' phone calls. You got farmers that want to grow to support these facilities, right? And they won't even return these people phone call to do the business. I feel like a piece of technology like this, some farmers are gonna say, well, screw it. I'm tired of talk. I'm tired of trying to call these guys. They won't answer my calls. I still want to get something done, So I
Right.
feel like this technology is gonna help, in a multitude of ways. And I know we've got a few people out here now, and some of them, may have a few questions, and I want them to have the opportunity to go to the well and get the water to ask those questions directly to you. So if there's anyone, who needs to unmute, please unmute yourself at this time and ask whatever question you need to ask about this.
Uh,
Let's see who we got here. Let's see. I,
Sylvester, looks like
I
he
see
unmuted.
Sylvester is unmuted. Sylvester, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
How are you?
I'm doing great. Doing great.
Good.
How are you?
Good, doing very well, man. So you're here with the man, Lawrence Servin. Please feel free to ask away.
Well, I don't have a question at this time. I just enjoying the presentation at this moment. Finding out what is available once we get started.
Okay, okay, okay. I see. I saw your speaker was unmuted there, so I just wanted to, make sure you had the opportunity to ask a question if you needed to. Um,
Thank you.
Now, who do we got here? Let's see. You know what? I'm gonna call out a buddy of mine because he was late. And he hit me up and asked me for see he already unmuting his camera because he know what's up. He
I
asked
know.
me, hey man, hey, how do I get on that presentation? Every video that I done shot about this, everything, the video information been right there. So now I'm putting you on Front Street, brother. What's going on, Theo? And by the way, Lawrence, Theo is in Hawaii.
Wonderful.
Yes. So thanks for bringing me in, Jay. That's what
No worries.
my question was. Do you have anything going on in Hawaii? Has any of the hemp licensed growers reached out to you? I know JJ might have met some of them. He does a lot of form out here, but just as far as your technology, your technique, and what you've been able to accomplish, have you had anybody deal with you in Hawaii?
All right. So, I've been in business for 30 years, and I would say, yeah, I mean, we've had, handfuls of people from Hawaii, talk to us, buy products from us, do things in Hawaii. Hawaii, just by its nature of being in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, has its own challenges. However, there is one thing about hemp. I do believe hemp is legal in Hawaii.
Mhm.
Uh, maybe a couple of people have told me they wanted to grow, but I think the only thing that's really been happening out there was probably for CBD,
Yes.
as that's generally the easier thing to do. However, what you could do, the herd that you get from the hemp is very good for building materials. You know, they
Yes.
don't have, I mean, you have plants and trees in Hawaii, but I don't think you're really going out and harvesting timber for the most part.
Not at all.
And it's probably a lot of the island is protected. So, you know, they need building materials because the only thing you can do is you have to import lumber from,
Yeah.
you know, the States. And that can be very expensive. Whereas if you're using hemp, you get a building material called hempcrete, which is really good because you can build with it and then it has thermoregulation properties about it. So heating and cooling are a lot less of a cost when you do build with the hempcrete. Uh, it is possible that they could grow the grow the hemp, and then the bast fiber could probably be exported to Asia. And since you're halfway there, the freight might be less, you know, to get it out there. And so there's definitely a possibility of doing that.
So here's
Yeah.
something I wanted to bring up, and Theo will chime in on this as well. I was over there for the Hawaii Cannabis Expo not too long ago, and it was huge on CBD, like you stated, but very few people had industrial knowledge. But I, as well as Theo, know of a couple of hempcrete projects that are going on over there right now, where they've imported, herd, for hempcrete projects that are there. And I know that there are people that are talking about. I look, one thing that I know for sure now in Hawaii, they know about decortication facility because I did Hemp 101 while I was over there. So I know they know about it. So I know there are people that are trying to figure out how to get a decortication facility up and going. But man, this is something that can be significantly cheaper. It's mobile, it can travel around and they can, get things done. So Theo, you got anything to add to that?
Yes, I mean, and you two hit the point when it comes to this market out here. We're the most isolated place in the world. Everything is imported here. 95% of the products that are consumed here, including construction materials, is imported. We have the idea to lease land to grow the hemp, to make the building materials, the hempcrete, the hemp brick, the hemp insulation, things like that. Um, One question I did want to ask is, how is hempcrete with road repair? Because because of the storm damage here, we have a lot of road repair that needs to happen, a lot of potholes, things like that. But I've never seen anything as far as road repair.
And hemp be used for road repair. Huh, that's a new one. I actually have not heard that before. Um, Possibly, the only thing I could potentially think of with that would be, uh, you know, when you remove the lignin from the hemp we were talking about earlier, that's almost like a glue. And potentially that could get put into some materials that maybe are part of road repair. But
Mhm.
normally, I think roads are usually they use tar or something like that to do roads. But I have not heard hemp being used for road repair per
Okay.
se. I'm trying to
Okay.
think here.
Now, with
Possibly,
that being said, with hempcrete, the longer it sits, the more it, collects carbon and it basically turns to stone, you know.
right, but hempcrete is not cement. It's
Right.
not the same thing. It's not going to replace cement.
Correct.
For roads or other things. What I will say is that with our machine, the main reason that we build it is it does two main things. It makes what the farmer will earn a lot more. So currently, if you're growing hemp the traditional way, you might get about $800 per acre. With our machine, you're going to probably get about $2,100 per acre as a farmer. So it's
Mhm.
more than double of what you would get. On the flip side of that, the herd goes from like 55 to 65 cents a pound down to about 20 to 25 cents a pound. The mass fiber goes from maybe $1.30 a pound down to about 35 cents per pound. So what it's doing is our machine is opening up the market. You mentioned not a lot of people got into the industrial aspects of hemp, but the main reason was the raw materials were too expensive.
Mhm.
Now with our machine, we get these raw materials a lot lower in cost, so they're much more competitive and compete directly with things like cotton, flax, and other natural fibers, even wood and wood chips as well.
Yes, I
Now,
know.
oh, go ahead, Theo. I'm
But
sorry. Please go ahead. Go
I
ahead. No,
was
you're
gonna
good.
say, besides building materials, of course, everyone knows about the Maui fire that just happened not long ago. For a fire retardant building material, I understand the hemp is one of the best things you can build as far as fire retardancy. And one of the other things that's in demand here is something that just came out, a special purpose revenue bond was for hemp fuel. Some of the military bases are looking at alternative fuel sources, biofuel sources. Um, do you know anything about hemp fuel? He
I turned
muted.
it off instead of on. All right, yes, I do. Now, there's a few different ways you can get fuel from hemp. All right. One is the easiest way is you can take literally the herd or even the whole plant and you can compress it and turn it into a little pellet. And that pellet will work very much like any other fuel pellet. Hemp is able to store a lot of energy within it, so it will burn better than wood, actually. And that would be kind of similar, as I said, to like fuel pellets that they make out of wood. The
Yes,
second way to do it is you can take hemp herds and you can do a chemical process where you're removing some of the lignin and hemicellulose out of it, and you can turn that into a type of diesel fuel.
yes,
And when you and so you can process it, you get the herd back, and over here you're going to get a type of fuel out of it.
yes. Have you seen any numbers, or do you know of anyone that's actually successfully converting hemp into fuel and actually selling it in the market?
Well, I know of a researcher in Pennsylvania who's been doing it, and he basically they proved that it works. They've been
Yeah,
able to get it done. However, what we don't know is, it might have to be done on a larger scale to
true.
make it profitable or economical. And of course, that would require somebody building a type of plant that would be able to do that. There's two other ways you can get fuel from hemp. One is there is pyrolysis, and that's where you take all of the hemp biomass, dry it out, then you heat it up, and gases will come out of it. Hydrogen, methane, um, I think ethanols, alcohols will come off of it. Those can be used as fuel. And then there is one other way, and that is you can get hemp seed. Hemp seed can be crushed, you can get an oil out of it, and hemp seed oil will actually power a diesel engine. And that hasn't
Yes.
been proven. It can work. Again, it's a matter of is it going to be economical to do it. The one that I mentioned that seems most reasonable, though, is where you're taking the wood pellets or the herd and then getting the diesel out of it.
I understand. We're
Mhm.
definitely looking at the feasibility of producing fuel here.
Mhm.
We're one of the only states that has all five military forces here. And like I said,
Mhm.
they're looking for alternative fuel sources. So we're trying to figure out as far as, how can we sustain a fuel supply here? They're asking for like 25% of what they need to be produced with biofuel. And we've been talking back and forth, but I just haven't seen anything solid as far as someone being able to produce what they're asking for as far as the process. I would love to know more about the process that you just spoke about, the four processes, to see what we can do through CIBR or anything like that to actually test R&D that and go forward with. There's a really good opportunity here. There's a $30 million special purpose revenue bond that no one's been able to engage truly
Mhm.
because the process is not proper and they can't prove the feasibility right out.
Right. Well, I certainly refer you to the researcher who was
So
handling that.
I hate to do
Yeah.
this, guys, but we got to bring this back to center. The
Yes,
conversation
sir.
is about the Fiber King.
Yes,
let's get
sir.
back on the main road, not the let's get out of the woods. Let's get back to the main road here. But definitely, Theo. So Lawrence, if someone, well, before I forget, if someone needs to get in contact with you, Lawrence, what do you want them to email me what they want and then I forward that to you? Is that
Either
how
way, there's two ways, certainly through you, or we have a
okay?
web page for the fiber king. It's purefiberinnovations.com. So that's PUREFIBER innovations with an S.com. That's the company that made it. And you can reach me through there, through that website.
Awesome. And there's another thing that we, probably need to bring up because I'm pretty sure you're not giving these machines away. I'm pretty sure they cost, a little bit of money. Have you been, let's say someone is really interested in this. Let's just put it out there. You got someone who is not a farmer. They've got some land that's been in their family for years, right? And they want to do something with it. They're thinking about growing this stuff, but they've got a lot of land, but they don't have a lot of money. Like, have you been able to secure any financing options for the Fiber King to kind of help
Yeah.
people with that?
All right, so the first machines that we're selling, they're going to sell for $500,000, but we have secured bank is willing to offer financing on the machine. It's actually First Citizens Bank, and they have agreed. And by the way, it was an introduction by JJ.
Who,
So
me?
thank you.
What?
Yeah,
Really?
he
Okay. All
found
right.
it. And they have agreed for, people who qualified that they could offer loans or leasing options on the machine. And just to get an idea, if 500,000 is a better deal, the very cheapest decortication machinery out there runs for about 800,000. That's the cheapest. It can process maybe less than 1 ton per hour. Our
Mhm.
machine for 500,000 can process 16 tons per hour. If you
Wow.
were to build a factory to process 16 tons per hour, it would run you probably 20 to $30 million.
Jeez, man.
Mhm.
That's like I&D hemp. I mean, those guys have,
Right.
put a tremendous investment into decortication, but it takes a lot to feed that machine and and keep things going. So yeah, you
Yeah,
bring up
well,
some
it takes a lot to feed it. You got to have the orders on it. And then you have, there's electricity, there's the wages of the people that are operating it, and then the rent on the land. And there's none of that with our machine.
Mhm.
And
Yep.
our machine, just so you know, it would do about 4 acres per hour. And we figure in about a 3 week period, it can probably harvest about 800 acres.
Now, and if anyone, so I see somebody, Rob, did you have a question? I see you out here, folks. Did you have a question?
Yeah, actually, I was kind of interested in the maintenance cycle on these machines.
All right, maintenance cycle, the machine is pretty simple. It's pretty straightforward. So it is pulled and powered by a standard tractor. So it doesn't even have its own motor or anything. You just connect it to a tractor with a simple hookup that's modular. And literally all it is, there's the cutting mechanism, which is like a sickle bar. Then there is a series of rollers that are decorticating, and then there is a auger that collects the herd, blows it up, and a fan that blows it out. So, other than possibly maybe cleaning it a little bit if it gets a little sticky, there isn't much you're going to have to do with it. It's a pretty hardy machine that should be able to handle any type of hemp, and you're not going to have to really worry too much about maintenance on it.
Okay, so no like annual preventive maintenance cycles or anything like that.
No, I'd say probably you're going to want to, after you use it for a season, you probably want to clean it, make sure, because with the rollers, the hemp has little gummy stuff in it, like that lignin and liquid, and that can kind of begin to coat the rollers or the blades. But that can just be cleaned probably at the end of the season. It should be okay.
Okay, thank you.
And I have heard of there are some decortication facilities where they've had problems with fires in decortication facilities because they're not doing enough cleaning. Of the equipment, and those parts are still going and going and going. It's just gonna make smoke. So where there's smoke, there's fire. So you have to be really careful there. Maybe Lawrence, maybe we should chat real quick about, so let's say someone does want one of these. It's not like they're going to pay you 500,000 tomorrow and then it's going to show up at their property, 2 weeks later. Like, what's the process like in terms of from the time someone says, "Hey, I want one of these machines"? What do we have to do to get it?
All right, so we just finished designing it and making it late last year, and we got a company who is building it for us on a commercial scale. So this particular company, they've been in business for over 40 years.
US
So
US based, right?
what's that?
US based company, correct?
Yes, they're
Yes.
located in Pennsylvania,
Okay.
and so they know how to build equipment. I mean, that's what they do. They build farm equipment, and they've agreed to build it for us. So the first machine will be probably that they built will be take the longest because it's their first one they put together. So we figured if you were to order it now, we'd probably have it ready to be delivered around July or August of this year. Beyond that, as we begin to get more machines built, that timeline's going to shrink. Is if we begin to get orders, they're going to order more raw materials for it, order more rollers, the auger, more of the cutting bar. So probably the time to put it together is going to shrink from, maybe 4, 5, 6 months now down to about probably, I figure they can have it built in less than 2 months. If they have everything all put together, ready to go.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So with that being said, and just knowing some of the things in this space, like I know, they're not gonna start cutting metal until they've received a certain amount of dollars,
Right.
up
Yeah.
front. So, like, or is there a process for like what you require down for deposit, or are you requiring
Right.
the whole amount at once? Like, how does that work?
All right. So the terms that we have would be half down and then half on delivery. So
Okay.
with a $500,000 machine, you put 250 down, and then once the machine is built and it's ready to be delivered, you pay the other 250. However, if you were to do financing, then you'd work that out with the bank, and it would probably be like a monthly payment over a certain number of months or years.
Yep. And then, while they're building, depending upon the terms you work out with the bank, you very well may start paying your monthly payment while this machine is still being, manufactured for you. So I just want to make sure, I bring that up now so that people are like, well, I don't have my machine yet. I'm not making a payment. Well, you're dealing with the bank. You took the bank's money. So they're going to want their money back based on their terms.
Right. So again, we believe this machine is going to be a hit because of everything that I've mentioned. It is the most logical step for processing hemp moving forward. So, we may get to the point where if we're selling enough machines, the factory will just start building them and having them ready to go. So maybe a year or 2 years from now, when you're ready to buy, there's one already built, and you can just take possession of it right away.
There you go. So I see Theo unmuted. I think he's got something else he wanted to ask about the Fiber King.
Yeah, yeah. So two questions. Being that I'm in Hawaii, how do we deal with shipping out here? Because it's pretty expensive to ship anything out here. And then
Yeah,
second,
it would be, yeah. So what would happen is the machine's small enough that it will fit inside a container. So
okay,
what would happen is, in fact, it wouldn't even take up a full container. So it would ship from probably was they're being made in Pennsylvania. So I'm not positive exactly how they get it, but maybe I'll assume they'll put it on a train, in a
yeah,
container. Container would go by train to LA, and then they would put it on a boat, and the boat would go to Hawaii, but it would ship on terms called LCL, which means less than container load. That is just a certain fixed amount per cubic meters that fit inside. And the machine is probably, let me think here, probably about maybe 9 to 12 cubic meters
Okay.
is,
Okay.
is what I'm thinking.
Understood. And then my second question, Jed, is if I had enough people who wanted to order that, would you consider having a dealership here?
Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely. We're open. At this point, we're open
Yes.
to everything. You know,
Yes,
if, or I should say not if, when this begins to get moving, we're, as I said, the first machine that we're making will do about, it will do 4 acres an hour. We figure 600 to 800 acres in a season. But overall, in terms of crops, that's very little. If you were to look at, how much cotton, corn, wheat, or soy is grown in the U.S., that's in the millions of acres that they have growing. So with hemp taking off, if it is starting to be used for, say, paper, textiles, construction materials, engineered wood products, we may need millions of acres of hemp and we need a lot of machines. Also, we believe that as we move forward, we will be improving on the equipment. And, the first one, 4 acres per hour. The next iteration of the machine may be 6 or 8, acres per hour, where it's a wider and wider areas being harvested and also faster and faster. 10 years from now, the machine might be able to do 10 to 12 acres per hour. So, and as that happens, the cost of the raw materials get cheaper and cheaper.
Yep.
understood. Understood. Thanks.
Basically, from what I'm understanding, Lawrence, you just need people to start, and the old country bumpkin, used to tell me this all the time. JJ, whatever wants, just have them write a check, right? Just write the check. That's what he would say is write the check all the time. And I think that's, what you need is you need people that are, that have money sitting in escrow or have the funds ready to go to start writing checks, so to speak, or work out financing so that we can start doing things like, Theo's, asking about, with the, the dealerships and just, more we need some real players to come to the table, do some real things and make it happen.
Right. So I'll give an example because 800 acres is not a huge amount. That can be handled in Hawaii. There, on probably a couple of farms there, maybe even one farm can handle 800 acres. So one machine will work for that. What would really be great is if you have, say, a builder in Hawaii who says, I want to build, you know, 5 houses. And there would be enough herd from that one, that 800 acres that he could then use to go ahead and build those houses that are right there. I don't know if there's
Mm-hmm.
any paper making going on in Hawaii, but then if at the same time you could take that bast fiber and have it ready to go to, say, China or India or Malaysia or Indonesia, countries where they have textile industries, that then gets shipped over there. And then you would have the farmer who grew it would have a market for everything that he grew and sold.
Right. Yeah. And
Understood.
one of the things that I wanted to do, oh, go ahead, Theo. I'm sorry. Didn't mean to cut you off.
No, I was just saying, understood. That's a very good option to have Hawaii as a hub to produce those type of materials. I'll be very interested in trying to see if we can make that work.
Oh, wonderful. Yeah,
So,
that would be very
so one of the things that
interesting.
I wanted to do, real quick, I'm going to go here and do a quick screen share because I found the pictures that you sent, Lawrence, from the, I just try to keep track of your pictures, but like,
Yeah.
can you see that on your end?
Yes, I see it. Everyone else
Yep.
see it?
So,
Yeah.
yep.
So what we're
So that's the
showing,
fiber.
yeah, the fiber is the entire length that the plant is tall. So if the plant's 14 feet tall, the length of the fiber is 14 feet. That opens up a lot more options because current decortication technology, many times they're not producing fiber that's more than a couple of inches long, and that limits your market. You can always shorten something, but you cannot make it longer.
Mhm. And then here's a picture of the herd that comes off of that as well.
Right, and it's very clean, very white, just needs to be dried, and then it's ready to go.
Hmm. And and that brings up a good point too, because let's say, and I'm always trying to think outside of the box. I'm always okay. So people are talking about, if this herd blows into a trailer and there's no aeration, you're gonna have a mold problem. Well, if you got people that have enough hempcrete houses going up, they're gonna take herd lime and water, to mix up to make hempcrete. So if the herd is a little bit damp and it's coming, off of a trailer straight to a job site, maybe that extra moisture will help them out a little bit, and they may not need so much water when it comes to making hempcrete. Is that a
Maybe. Normally what happens is the farmer is going to get paid for what they produce, but nobody wants to pay the farmer for water that might
right?
be in the crops. Normally it does have to be dried. Uh, you make a point, if the herd is a little wet and you bring it to a construction site, then maybe you would need less water to add to it. Because it's basically the hemp herd, lime and water make hempcrete, and that's it.
Right.
I hadn't
So
thought
that
of that. Yeah.
that's my first thought, for those
Hmm.
who say, well, mold is going to be an issue. Well, if somebody gets off their butt and moves this stuff down the line to where it needs to go next, it might not be that bad. So,
Hmm.
I would say to anyone, seriously considering this, start with the end in mind. Know that the herd coming off of this is going to, possibly need a little bit of drying. Understand that the fiber, it's still going to depend upon the use. It's going to need some degumming or some delignification, as well. But these are things that have been worked through already, and they've already been taken into account. So it's definitely doable if people just, start with the end in mind and plan accordingly.
Hmm. Right.
So who does anybody else? I mean, Theo, those were great questions. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for being a little bit late and not knowing the link so I could pick on you a little bit. I appreciate that because you opened up some some great discussions. Uh, does anybody else, have any other questions while we're out here? Just kind of monitoring the airwaves to see if anyone unmutes, but it looks like no one is unmuting at this point in time. I'm trying to think of any other questions that I think I've got, the main ones that people have hit me up, I mean, I've asked, already self. I think you've done a wonderful job of explaining, the workarounds, for those issues that are going to come up. I mean, Lawrence, do you have any, closing words or anything that, you want to, you know, say when it comes to this piece of technology and its impact, on our industry as a whole later on down the
All
line?
right. So we need sources of fiber here right now. So where do we get fiber? Well, in the natural world, you're going to get fiber either from plant material. Normally, it might be cotton or jute or flax, things like that. Or the other main source would be trees. But we live in a finite world. We're running out of trees. We cannot continue to chop them down. Hemp, within a 4-year period, if you grow hemp every year for like 4 years, it will produce as much fiber as if you were growing trees for 30 years, actually, like pine trees. And by the way, I'm talking pine, which is the fastest growing of the trees. If it's a hardwood, forget it. It doesn't take much longer to do it. So we can get a lot more fiber per acre from this, more than all of those. The other place where we get fibers would be synthetic fibers. So that usually comes from petroleum. And we know that petroleum is going up in price lately, and I think in Hawaii it's hard to get. So hemp, if you were to look at every plant on the earth, you would see that hemp is the logical choice, that you can get more fiber per acre from hemp than any other plant that's out there. That's why I got into it 35 years ago. I realized that, and I looked it up and found out that it was true. The only reason we're not using it now is simply because it was outlawed. My machine, most likely, if hemp had never been outlawed, my machine probably would have been invented, I'd say, in maybe the 50s or 60s. it would have
Wow.
come about. But because it was outlawed practically everywhere in the world, nobody bothered to do it. We've kind of begun to work with other things. Cotton, uses a lot more water than hemp. It uses a lot more pesticides and fertilizers than hemp. So hemp is really the logical choice to be able to substitute for these things. But with those other fibers, you have economy of scale. With millions of acres of cotton being grown and cotton being subsidized at the moment, it allows cotton to be fairly cheap, and the whole world is adapted to that. With hemp, with this equipment, we're going to be lower than cotton, even with it being subsidized. Once we begin to get hemp grown on a larger scale, once we get hemp to 100,000 or a million acres growing, the economy of scale is going to kick in, and hemp is going to be able to replace practically all the other fibers, including in a lot of instances, petroleum fibers.
And those are some amazing facts. Those are some amazing numbers. I can't wait for us to get. I always say that everybody always talks about, marijuana being such a big market. When people truly find out about the industrial uses for hemp, and that really takes off as hempcrete and plastics, paper products continue to come online, that is going to dwarf the the marijuana market. When it truly kicks off. And I just thought of one more question that we can leave the people with. I know sometimes when it comes to these decortication facilities, if what you're growing, the fiber you're growing is too thick or too round, right? They can't process it through their machine because it's going to get caught up. It's going to cause binding, going to cause fires. So some decortication facilities are like, hey, if your fiber is any bigger than is anything more bigger than your thumb, we can't take that. What have you guys been able to process with the Fiber King in terms of, circumference of a stock to
Yeah, the machinery is hardy enough that it can handle, I'd say just about anything, into it. Hemp hurd is actually soft if you actually feel it. It feels a little bit more like balsa wood when you
Mhm.
put it in your hands. But you make a point about the fire. And the fire is a result of they're working with dry material, very
Right.
dry material, and it's very dusty as you
Hmm.
use it. It doesn't fly in the air. And if you have a spark, that can ignite and actually even cause an explosion. That's why, uh, what is it, the lumber mills have to be careful or something like that. They usually need air filtration to make sure there isn't too much sawdust in the air. When we're harvesting and doing the decorticating with the hemp as it's green, it's moist. There's no dust whatsoever, and the material is already moist, so there's no chance of fire at all or dust.
That right there. That's prime. That's what I wanted to know. And looks like that spurred Theo. He's got something else. I want to make sure he gets all of his questions asked.
Yes,
Seriously,
I appreciate it, Jay.
no worries.
Um, when you talked about we talked about sustainability pretty much, and how hemp is considered carbon neutral or carbon negative. Have you seen anything with your market as far as a secondary opportunity to make income with carbon credits?
Yeah, so carbon credits are entirely a government sort of thing. So you need a government who's basically saying we're going to offer carbon credits, and the way they work is if you are doing something that's pulling carbon out of the atmosphere, like hemp per se, you can actually measure it, how much carbon is getting pulled out. The government can give you a carbon credit, and then you can sell that to another company that, say, is adding carbon to the atmosphere. So there are a few companies that have come around that specialize in that they can buy and sell carbon credits. They know how to work with the government. So how would that look in practice? So let's say the farmer's growing hemp. Let's say it costs him $600 an acre to grow the hemp. And then he's able to sell it, for say $2,000. So he's made from, the difference between the 600 and the 2,000. So that's about $1,400 right there per acre. But then with carbon credits, he may get another $50 to $100 per acre through carbon credits. So those would go to the farmer, and it would make growing hemp either less expensive or more profitable, however you wanted to look at it.
I see. Yeah, we out here everything is more expensive than it is just about anywhere in the world. So we always look at efficiency and how secondary markets can help us to fund
Mm-hmm.
our opportunities. So I appreciate that. And
Yeah.
if you when we do follow up, JJ, if we can add some of that information as far as the people that you know that's dealing with the carbon credit, it's a real hard sell out here. Hemp should be grown everywhere in Hawaii. We have the land and the opportunity to do this. It's weather is great all year. We could probably get three harvest seasons out of Hawaii, but
Yeah, I would figure with a where you're located in Hawaii with the temperature, latitude, and everything, you're going to be able to get 2 or 3 crops per year. They won't be as big as what we have here, but there's going to be multiple crops will probably work out
yeah,
there. Another thing people talked about, it's been theorized that if you put stadium lights in the field and you turn them on for maybe an hour a day when the crop is growing, you can continue to keep it in vegetative stage, which
mm,
will allow it to continue to grow, 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 grow. And if you can do that, then yeah, then definitely you could get 3 crops a year that would be very tall. Each one would look like the one behind me. It's
mm.
been theorized, and it does work in the lab. I have not seen it though work, in the real world yet. But it seems like it's something that can happen.
I sincerely like from going over to Hawaii myself. Those people are very passionate. They're hard workers. They're great people over there. Man, I would love to see one of the first Fiber Kings, go to Hawaii because, I know what the work ethic is like over there and what those guys are trying to, overcome. And it wouldn't be bad for the first one to go over there. That way, Lawrence, we got to go over there. We got to take some
Sure.
photos. We got to take some videos with it being, I mean, it's hard work for us to go to Hawaii
Yeah,
and
that would be fun. Yeah, if I had to go
it's
to
a hard
Hawaii.
work, Lauren. It's hard to go over there,
Yeah,
and
as the
justify
first
it.
machines, my group, Pure Fiber Innovations, we want to be right on hand. We want to make sure they're working properly, get a lot of feedback, figure out ways to improve the machinery. So the next ones that we build are going to work even better.
Yep, Theo, write the check. We coming.
Hey, how many people I need to get together, and I'll make it worth it. No, going back. Yeah.
So, well, man, Lawrence, I thank you so much for taking the time to come out here. I truly appreciate your dedication to this space because, I was, you were doing things when I was still on active duty. Theo was still on active. Theo is a Navy veteran himself,
Mhm.
and and my buddy Rob Fosher, he's an Air Force veteran. He was actually on one of my crews when I was air crew, so it's like we were serving in the military, we were doing our thing, man. You already knee deep in the trenches, with what you were doing. So I truly appreciate, your efforts in this space. And not sure who's going to see this video, when we're done, but you guys know how to get in contact with Lawrence. If anyone needs to get in contact with me, my email address is James, James at jjgro.com. Send me an email, let me know what you need. I'll get it over to Lawrence, and just want to see everyone win. Just want to see everyone, be successful. Hemp is a slow burn, but I think it's starting to gain traction and gain momentum in many major ways. And we just have to stay true to the intent of what industrial hemp was meant to be. So, thank you for your time, Lawrence. Thank you for everyone who came out here, Theo, Sylvester, Foch, anyone else who, decides to check this out, please let us know. Does anybody have any parting words before we get off the line?
I'm all right, but I appreciate the interview, JJ.
Oh no, thank you so much. And just to put it out there, Me and Lawrence connected at Industrial Hemp International, which was formerly known as NOCO in Hawaii. I was there emceeing for this event. I saw the video, what he was putting out there. I was like, man, we got to get the word out about this thing. So there are good things that come from people going to these events, networking with those industry movers and shakers, and, finding out things outside of your normal environment. So thank you for you making the trip, to Colorado to kind of showcase this thing a little bit, let us all know what's going on. And I'm truly looking forward and happy to see where things are going to go from here.
Right.
So,
Thank you.
with that being said, guys, thank y'all so much for your time. Lawrence, thank you as well. I know you're in Cali and you still got some time to go do some cool stuff. So,
Yeah, still light up.
yeah.
Hey,
So,
Jay,
well,
Jay,
yep. Yes.
how can I get a copy of this so I can take it to my family?
Yeah. So when this is done, Sylvester, is your last name Green?
Yes.
Okay, so yeah, so I know exactly who I'm talking to now, and I know I've got your number. So as soon as this is over, I will text you the you because I'm gonna download the video and I'm gonna get it transferred over to YouTube, and then I'll text you the link, the YouTube link for the video.
Thank you. Appreciate
Yep.
it.
No
God
worries at
bless.
all. Yep, no worries at all. Everybody, y'all have a good evening, and I hope your week starts off amazing.
Thank you. Same to you.
All
Awesome.
right,
Thank you
y'all
very
take
Take care,
care.
All
guys.
right
much.
now.
Okay,
Bye.
then.
All righty.
Mahalo,
Bye-bye.
Theo.
Aloha.
All right, bye bye.